Welcome back, everyone. So, some huge EverQuest news dropped today, and I just wanted to give my reaction to it. The 25th Anniversary TLP servers have finally officially been announced, and I'm just going to start by reading the announcement in the producer's letter here. With Mischief and Eridoon being the two most popular server rule sets from their opening day to today, this was an easy enough choice to make for such a celebratory year. So without further ado, our new TLP servers are Tormax, a traditional time-locked progression server, and Teek, a random loot free trade time-locked progression server. Both will have relaxed true box, starting with the traditional true box rules and relaxing to the true box rules further over time. Both servers will start with the runes of Kunark unlocked, with expansion unlocks then happening at a standard cadence, and both will launch on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. That's not all either. This year we're introducing a name reservation system that will launch on April 24th. Those characters with 200 days or more played time will be the first with the opportunity to reserve their character name on those servers. As we get closer to launch, the played time restriction will lower for the next round, and so forth. So be sure to get in those hours if you want to be in the first round to reserve your name on the new servers. Lastly but not least, I want to thank you all for being with us during this banner year and helping us celebrate 25 glorious years of this amazing game. I'm thankful that each of you is here to mark this outstanding year-long celebration, and now, of course, it's time to answer the call. That is from Jen Chan, head of the studio. So, from reading this, my first reaction is there is going to be one really popular new TLP server, and one TLP server that's pretty much dead on arrival. I can't imagine very many people are going to choose a traditional TLP over a random loot free trade Mischief clone. This is a very strange move for them, and I kind of wonder if this traditional server is going to have something added to it at some point to make it a little less uninteresting. I'm not saying I think no one will play, but I'm saying I think almost no one will play. There's always an appetite in the EQ community for a fresh start on a classic era server, even though, well, we'll get to that later. This isn't really going to be a classic start server. But Mischief was just such a huge hit. I can't see people passing up on a chance to do it for the second time. They did say that Eridoon was one of their most popular TLP servers from its start until today, but I wonder if they're not accounting for the fact that Eridoon came out when there was literally nothing else to do, and there was no TLP server with a cool rule set to even compete with it. So, of course, people played Eridoon. Like, what else were they going to do? I do remember thinking, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, as soon as TSS ended on the Mischief server, that I wanted another Mischief server to start up so I could do it all again. There are so many things that random loot free trade opens up, it just makes a normal server seem kind of bland. Now, that said, if this year's TLP announcement came out and they had announced two traditional Eridoon type TLP servers, I would still play, and I'd probably still be somewhat excited about it. I'm just way too deep in my EQ addiction to not play a new TLP server at this point. But the fact that there's a choice to play Mischief 2.0 is just a no-brainer for me. So, major point number 2, both servers are launching with Kunark unlocked. I have some mixed feelings about this. It was kind of spoiled by Daybreak a month or two ago when they added the new servers to their in-game calendar with some details included. So it's not really a surprise, and that's given me some time to sit and kind of think about this. And I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I'm a huge fan of the original pre-expansion EverQuest world. It's one of my favorite eras to play in on a TLP, but it has its flaws, and those flaws make me kind of lean towards a Kunark start being a good thing. So I want to do a little pros and cons list on a Kunark start real quick. So con number 1. The planes of hate, fear, and sky will be far less relevant. I know there are still pieces that will make these zones somewhat viable, and there's not enough Kunark endgame to push guilds to skip the older content, especially with the rush to complete epics. But it will feel a little bit lesser, and that kind of feels bad. Also, second con, any epic that has a bottleneck in classic era zones is going to get real messy. Having a couple months pre-Kunark for players to farm their epic drops from classic era zones was really nice, and it does a lot to cut down on congestion for those epic drops. And a Kunark launch completely removes this buffer. People are going to be straight to working on their epics as soon as they hit probably even 50, let alone 60. So, onto the pros. Classic Era has very limited leveling paths, and the options opened up by having access to Kunark right from the start are huge, and it makes the leveling process way easier. No longer are you going to be stuck in Soul B, the Hole, and Lower Guck all the way up to 50. There's a half dozen new viable zones that will spread players out a lot during that leveling process. And it makes it easier and a little more interesting with the extra variety. Pro number 2, having a level 60 cap instead of 50 and having the Kunark zones and their loot open will take some of the chrono farmers off of the camps in the Classic Era zones that people might want to be using to level. So the zones where you'd get drops like the Freedy Boots and the Flowing Black Silk Sash, etc., they're not going to be clogged up 24/7 by groups trying to farm for drops to sell. And that's a good thing. Another pro, and this is a pro for me, maybe not for everyone else, is that I'm not generally an XR player, and I'm probably not going to start with one on this server. So that means that all of the newbie zones in the old world are going to be a lot less crowded because so many people are going to be rolling lizards to play. This could also be seen as a con for players who are playing XR. So if you're planning on rolling an XR, day 1, good luck with that. So overall, I feel like opening a TLP with Kunark unlocked is a good thing. So what I gather from the TrueBox portion of this announcement is that both servers are going to be starting with the standard TrueBox rules, so 1 character per PC, and I'm assuming they're going to be unlocking the relaxed TrueBox on a similar schedule to what was announced for the Oakwind server. I don't believe Oakwind has even reached their first TrueBox relax benchmark. I think that happens with Omens of War in June. So it's hard to even say what effect this will have on the server. It's kind of a non-issue for most players, I think, especially early on because it's not going to be even in yet. So now I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about a few things that were not on the list for this new TLP. There was no mention of FTE in the announcement. So if you had asked me a week or two ago if I thought FTE was going to be involved in the new TLP server, I would have said yes, absolutely. Daybreak loves their FTE, but not seeing it mentioned makes me feel like it's going to be absent from the new servers. Unless they consider it so much a part of TLPs at this point that they didn't even feel the need to mention it. But this would only be the second set of servers with FTE, so I feel like that would be part of the announcement if it was going to be there. So that makes me think that maybe the FTE is going to be dialed back for this server. My impression of FTE is that a lot of players kind of came around on it and that it wasn't really as disruptive as people initially thought it was going to be. But I know there's still plenty of players that are staunchly opposed to it and will be very happy if it's not involved. Another thing missing from the announcement for the new servers that I was kind of hoping to hear something about was the inclusions of hot zones. When the server names were leaked and people saw that one would be called Teek, players very quickly made the connection to Franklin Teek, the NPC, the hot zone NPC in Plane of Knowledge, and speculated that maybe hot zones would be involved somehow in these new servers. I'm not completely giving up hope, but this seems unlikely that they will add anything new at this point that wasn't announced. But let me share an idea with you that I had. I said earlier that I think Tormax will be pretty much dead on arrival as just a standard TLP going up against a Mischief clone. They could make Tormax halfway interesting if they switched the names, called it Teek instead of Tormax, and added rolling hot zones to the server with some sort of added loot and experience to those hot zones. Maybe even throw a dash of Mischief into the hot zones. Make it so that that zone during the window would be able to drop loot from a table of similarly leveled zones, similar to Mischief's random loot. That might make that server just appealing enough to draw some players away from what is now called Teek. So I'm going to quickly touch on the last part before I finish up here. They've announced that as of April 24th, accounts with more than 200 days played will have a first shot at reserving names for the new server, with reservations gradually opening up to accounts with less time played. This is great news for known players who want to use an established name on the new server, but keep getting their names sniped by someone who got lucky in the login screen. it's kind of a nice nod to loyal players who have been around forever. Personally, I don't even know if I'll use it right away because I don't usually settle on a name to use until a few days before servers start anyways. But it was kind of a nice thing to add, I think. So that's it for this video. A nice little short one just talking about the new TLP announcement. Remember, if you liked this video, leave a like. If I said something you disagree with, please comment and let me know. Or if I said something you agree with, comment and let me know. I know I am excited about this announcement, and I'm looking forward to playing on this new TLP. It's really got me hyped up for it. So talk to you later.